Hi, and welcome to another part of Xojo the Live Code. Today we're going to talk about how would you import and export text or read and write text in both Livecode and Xojo, so we can see how both work. So if you need to work in Livecode in your Xojo user, or if you're Livecode user and you want to work in Xojo, we can take a look. So I made a simple window here, and I did this on both platforms. So let's just open Xojo really quick and we can see that I have one here also. Same kind of window, same kind of layout, so it looks pretty much the same. We're going to start with live code. And so we're going to import and export text. So I put a text field here and an import and export button. Well, let's start with export. Since we don't have a file, let's create a file by adding a script to this to export a file that we would write in this text field. So this text field is called field text, and we'll take that right here, and what we want to do is say put the text of field text into ttext. Ttext is a variable, and something you'll notice in live code, you don't have to declare your variables like you do in Xojo. And variables are sort of like a variant, so you can put a lot of different things in there. You can put numbers, you can put text, text strings, all sorts of different things. So we're going to put the text of this field into this variable, and the reason we're going to do this is this way we can check to see if this text is empty. Like right now, the field is empty. And if the field's empty, obviously, you don't want to export something. So we'll say if ttext is empty, then end if. And if it's not empty, we'll have an else. So if it's empty, we should probably present a warning dialog. Else, we will process the text to a file. Okay, so doing a warning in live code is normally just answer with a message. However, answer warning is usually how it's done, and then you are prompted with a message. However, that doesn't look too good. So if you want it to look sort of Mac-like, or even other type of things, you can make a dialog that looks right, where it has the icon, it has a bold sentence, a space, and then a description. So we're going to do that, and you can do that using HTML type text. So we'll say no text to export. As you can see, I'm doing HTML type blocks here where I have the bold with the brackets. And to finish this off, we'll need to put a carriage return, which is like char 13, I believe it's char 13. And I'll say T line 1, L1. And I'll put T, and then we have to do this space that you normally would see. So to do that, all we have to do is add an empty paragraph. And again, another carriage return. We can actually say after TL1, and then we can put our main body, our main description, between these brackets, and let's say we'll say add text to field, then export. Okay, so now, oops, and we have to say after TL1, you can probably want to call it something else, like T message. Then you would come back to it like in a couple of months, then you know what you're talking about. A little bit better description. And then we say answer warning, T message, and since we're on a Mac, we can go as sheet. And if you're going to do this for multiple platforms, then, oops, we do not want to do that. Okay. No quotes there. So let's try that. We'll hit export, and then we get no text export with your explanation. Obviously, this can be as many lines as you want, but usually the bold area is not. So that looks like Mac-like. And in Xojo, you can do the same thing, but they have it all set up so you can actually add all that stuff to an actual dialogue and not have to use the HTML text. Okay, so let's say the user enters some text in here. We'll just put in hello world. Okay, so we want to take this hello world and we want to export that to a file. So at this point, if the user has done that, we can say ask file, and we'll put a little message in here, export file as, and that's sort of the title. And we're going to use with. This is a suggested file name. So say untitled. Then we'll ask if it is empty, and that means if the user did cancel, then it would just end if. Then we will want to do is put it is what, it's the variable that's returned if the user selected a file name and a location. So we're going to put it. And since we know we're just going to save it as a plain text file, we're going to say text into TFP, which will be my file path. And then we can say put ttext. If you remember at the beginning, we did get the text of the field way up here. So we're going to take that text and we're going to put ttext into URL. We're going to put 2 brackets there. And then in quotes, we're going to put file slash, and then we're going to use the ampersand again, which will add that variable up here, the TFP, to the end of that, and we'll save it. And that right there is how you will be able to export a file. And let's try it. So we say hello world, this is our test. We'll hit export, and so I have a default folder here for this project. We'll say LC test right. So this means this is our live code test. So we'll save that. Now let's clear out this field here, because what we want to do is we want to see, hey, where's that text? Did it save it to the file? So we're going to try to import the text we just exported. So let's go into the import here, and we'll hit edit script. And what we'll do here is we'll say answer file, and this will bring up the file dialog to select a file. And hey, we'll say that select file as sheet. If it, remember it is what's selected, is empty, then end if. That means the user canceled. Okay. So now all we have to do is say put URL. It's almost similar to what we did on the export. On the export, we put the text into the URL. So now we're taking the URL and we're going to do this almost the same thing here. File, dot, and then we're going to take the ampersand again and it, and this time we are going to put that into field, and the name of this field is field text, and that's going to take the text, the plain text that we've written, and put it into this field. So let's try it. So let's go to import. Here's that LC test write that we did. We'll hit open. And there it is. Hello world, this is our test. So that's how you read and write in Livecode. So next, let's take a look at how you would do this in Xojo. Okay, so now we're in Xojo. So we're going to do the same thing we did in Livecode with importing and exporting text. So I have named this field the same as I did in Livecode. And I have an export button here with an action. So let's remember what this field is called. So we want to take the text that we've written in this field and we want to export that. So I'm going to start off and I'm just going to declare fs as string equals field text.text. So this will get the property of the text. And next we will we'll declare DLG as new save as dialog, and we'll declare T as text output stream, and that's how you output text, is by the text output stream. You can also do encoding, but we're not going to really get into that because you can do encoding also with Livecode. So you can do UTF-8, Mac Roman, so, you know, anything that's supported by the Unicode standard. But we won't get into that right now, though it's not very hard to do. And we'll declare F as our folder item. Okay, so I'm going to make a dialog appear for the user to select where to save the file. So DLG is my save as dialog. As you can see, I declared up here. And it has a couple properties, such as suggested file name. And just like Livecode, we're going to use Untitled as the suggested. We will then put a title. The title appears really on other platforms or on Mac when you don't sheet. So if you're actually going to be sheeting the window, you don't really see this, but you never know. Apple in the future may remove the sheet as a thing, and it's good to always have that title there anyways. And then we will filter to plain text. I have already created a folder item right here for files. Plain text, I just use extension .text, but plain text can be anything really. You know, between HTML, all sorts of different kind of things. So you could put other extensions in there. So we are going to filter just for that. Okay, so now we have our dialog. We want to say f dlg dot show module, and if we wanted to just do this, this is how it would be on Linux, Windows, but if you want to do it for Mac, you can also do the within and self. And you know, if you were going to do this for multiple targets, you would actually do if target, and you see how there's different targets here. Well, we would know that Mac OS is the only one that has a sheet. So I would say if target, then do this, else, and because we'd have to use this pound sign or number sign, and again we have to use it for the end if. Oops, and if is one word when you're using these target things. So we copied it like this. So if you were going to be exporting to any other platform other than Mac, where it doesn't do the sheet, the within self, then this would work right here. So anytime you see me doing something that's only Mac only, that's how you would do it, or vice versa. There's target Windows, target Linux, all sorts of stuff. Okay, so now we have that. That's going to present the dialog. So now we're going to say if F, that's our folder item, and if that is nil, then that means if the user canceled, we'll end if. Okay. So now we'll take our text, which we declared up here, T, text output stream, and we'll put that in again, text output stream dot create, and we'll create F. We'll create the folder item. Then we'll say t.write, and we want to write the text we got out of this text field here, fs. Now since we already selected fs, because we may want to check the field to see if there's any text in it before we want to write something. That's probably a good thing to do because you don't want to write empty text. But for now, we're just going to do this. Okay, and then we want to close our file. So we want to say t.close. And that should be that. So let's try it. Okay, we do have something it doesn't like. Oh, our filter. I put in filter, this thing here, T or FT export. We do have to put dot all. You have to tell it which one to support, even if there's just one. If there's just one, to say all. It should work now. Okay, so let's try it. We'll say hello world from Xojo. We'll hit export. And let's see if we can remember where that was. It was here. And we'll say Xojo text. And we'll hit save. Okay, as you remember, what we did in Livecode, we wanted to import that same file. So next we will work on how do we read the same file that we just exported to a text file. Okay, so we say DLG, or first of all we have to declare this. That's the thing you have to do in Xojo over Livecode. You have to declare everything, which is not a bad thing because, hey, then you know that you're using it. So we're going to do an open dialog equals a new open dialog. And we're going to also dim F as folder item. Okay, and you could, when you declare these, you can have statements that you feel more comfortable with, maybe are a little bit more meaning to them. Okay. Multi-item select. For right now, I'm just going to put this at false. I usually do true because I like to be able to allow the user to select multiple items. And again, I'm just going to do the, like I said before, show module is the way you would do it for all platforms. You do the within, and it works for sheeting. And I'm just going to do that here, or you can do what I showed you the last time. And because I do have the option to select multiple files, oops, this is supposed to be integer, equals 0 to DLG dot count minus 1. And that's a loop. So if you're selecting multiple files, obviously if they're selecting multiple files, this actually has to be true, and we can set it at true. So you can see what it does. So then you would say f equals DLG dot item I. And I is what we just declared up here in this integer. Okay, so next what we want to do is we want to know if this file exists. So that's one thing I really like about Xojo. You can check if the file actually exists, and if it doesn't, you just end. Okay, so now we need to declare a text input stream. So as, oops, I spelled that wrong. Input, and it should do stream. Oops, and I do have MBS installed as plugins. Equals text input stream dot open, and we want to open F, the folder item. And so we want to tell our field text dot text equals t dot read, and I believe we want to read all. It means we want to read the whole file. And once we've done that, we want to close the file. So close, and I believe if I look at this one time over, make sure everything looks right, it does look good. This should work. Okay, so let's go to import, and our Xojo text was right here, so we can hit open, and there you go, hello from Xojo. And let's check the file that we wrote in Livecode, lctest.txt. Let's open that. And as you can see, we can read any kind of text. So that's read and write text files, plain text basically, in Xojo and Livecode. Obviously, you can use style text. You can also use Unicode, and you can do a lot of other things related to text more than what I showed you. But this is just an overview on how you would do both from Livecode and Xojo. Thank you for watching. Bye.